You can say, I want to have a successful business, or I want to find my life partner, or I want to do this or that, but energy doesn't lie. When we stay in our hearts, we can be so productive. That compassion, the care, that will turn our businesses on fire.
I love how you started off by saying all hearts are the same. At our core, that really is the thing that unifies us. It's the thing that connects us. It's the thing that is going to connect us with our customers, those of us who have businesses.
You really do change your life from the inside out. You can change your business from the inside out. You can change your relationships. Try these tools and practices and feel. Not only do you perceive life differently, and you can have more creative solutions, and you can find more unity, and you can communicate better, but people perceive you differently.
Yes.
I don't use this term lightly. It can create quantum leaps.
Kimberly, welcome to Powerhouse Women.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much.
I'm so excited to have you here. I was introduced to you through your latest book, which is your 8th. Is that correct?
Yes.
Your 8th book, which is The Hidden Power of the 5 Hearts. And this is such a necessary book right now. Even before we started, we were talking about how this has completely shifted the way you show up in your relationships, in your business. And I feel like it's really a trend that a lot of us very ambitious women are feeling and don't realize that that's actually what we're feeling. So I cannot wait to dig into this conversation with you.
What's amazing about this, we can call it a trend, but what I really think it is, Lindsay, is this natural, the title, The Hidden Power, this calling back into who we truly are.
Yeah.
When you look at the past 100 years, let's say, or so of modern living, which has gotten more rushed and more hurried, in many ways more masculine, more, harder edged, pedal to the metal, got to make it happen, more linear, right? But when you look beyond that, when you look back in time, all these ancient cultures, from the Babylonians to the Greeks, the ancient Egyptians who didn't take the heart out of the mummies because they believed there was this gateway, this incredible energy, this pathway through the heart. And then all world religions and spiritual traditions center in the heart. We think about the Sacred Heart of Jesus Christ and the Buddhist Heart Sutra and the Anahata Chakra, the word kalb mentioned throughout the Quran, the word lev, which translates to heart, mentioned throughout the Torah. So I say this whether we subscribe to any spiritual tradition or not, but that this heart-led way of being is so universal and powerful and needed in modern living, and that we can bring into our business lives, we can bring into our personal lives to create enrichment and fulfillment and so much creativity and aliveness and compassion and love and all the things that we're really looking for.
Yeah, you're right. It's not new. It's it's a remembering.
It's a remembering. And then now there's the modern science of heart coherence, which plays such a big role in the book as well, where science really does intersect and backs up what so much of our intuition already teaches us.
And that was actually where I wanted to start, because I was first introduced to the concept of heart coherence through Dr. Joe Dispenza. His work talks a little bit about it. I want you to explain what it is. I think that's the perfect point to jump in, because it's really what the power, the hidden power that we're going to talk about, that's where we understand the scientific research behind what that power is.
Yes. So let's start by recalling, any of us that are parents, and when you go in to get an ultrasound, something that the doctor says, you'll hear the heartbeat first. And I remember I'm a mother of 2, 4 and 8, and doctor's saying, you're going to see the heartbeat. The brain isn't formed. I remember hearing this and then sort of kind of, oh, that's cool. And then dismissing it, right? But when I got into this work, really leaning into that. Wait a minute, the heart is formed before the brain. That means that there's actually a directive type of intelligence, a deeper type of intelligence that's coming from the heart. So what science shows today is that the heart is another brain, which many of us don't know. Lindsay, I've been working in wellness for over 14 years. I never knew this until a few years ago. And we could tell the story later how I came into this work and really went down the rabbit hole. It has 40,000 neurons. And the heart is actually sending more messages to the brain up here than vice versa. There's also another brain in our guts. And so when we are talking about coherence, we're talking about this harmony, this inner alignment between our hearts, our brains, our nervous system, and also our guts, everything harmonizing. And what this means scientifically is that we become more efficient with our energy. It takes less work for our bodily systems to go about doing their functions so that we slow aging, we increase vitality. There's so much research in the book. We balance our hormones, we create clarity, we create focus. One of the biggest things I see today hampering us in our businesses, in our personal lives, in our goals is overthinking, is fear.
And never met her.
Confusion. Right?
Yeah.
So what we're saying here, what the science and the teaching show is that we are not saying that the brain doesn't matter. What we are saying, and I use this analogy in the book, is when the brain is not harnessed to the heart, when we are incoherent, which means scientifically the heart and brain aren't speaking, we, what I call the wild horse mind, it's like a wild horse. It's just running around. It's telling you all these thoughts. Many of them aren't true, telling you need to compare, you need to compete more, you need to judge, you need to work harder, you're not enough, you're not doing enough, versus this inner syncing up and this alignment. And what it feels like in your body, Lindsay, is clarity. What happens is your heart has the ability to change your perceptions. So now instead of trying to change your thoughts, trying to have more willpower from the place where the issue is, which in this case is the overthinking mind, we're going to a different place to find the solution. And that different place is in your heart. So we're linking up the heart brain with this brain up here. And what the science shows is there's actually a field that's right now we're in each other's field.
Yeah.
It's 100 times stronger than the field of the brain. And it actually projects out 8 to 10 feet around. And what's amazing by this, and there's a graph in there, Lindsay, on page 45.
I was just actually looking at that earlier. I don't know if we can pull it up for people to see.
And we can share it. And the same way you would go in and get an EKG, how they're measuring electromagnetic frequencies. This is measurable by science, by these magnetometers. There it is. So what's amazing about this work and so empowering, and what I want everyone to know, is that you really do change your life from the inside out. You can change your business from the inside out. You can change your relationships, but not in this like airy-fairy way. When you get coherent, not only do you perceive life differently, and you can have more creative solutions, and you can find more unity, and you can communicate better, but people perceive you differently.
Yes.
So the heart field means you can say, oh, I want to, have a successful business, or I want to find my life partner, or I want to do this or that, but energy doesn't lie. So you could actually be projecting incoherence and repelling situations, opportunities, people away, versus when you become coherent, it is felt, it is registered. It's like people leaning into you at a party and being like, I don't know what it is, but what are you working on? I'd love to know. I'd love to help. I don't know what it is. I'd love to ask you on a date. Just leaning in. And so it creates more easefulness and flow in our lives, in our businesses, and in our health.
Yeah. Okay, I'm like, there's so much I want to dig into here, but for whatever reason, this is pinging me to ask you, do you have a specific story from your own life where you noticed the shift of the way people were resonating with you before you knew about this technology versus what you were able to call into your life and your business as a result of understanding the power of the heart? And when you share so many personal stories in the book, but I'd love to hear if there's like one that comes into your mind to really illustrate for people the power of this.
Yes, there is a story, Lindsay. And so we'll get into the heart stages later because it's really important that people understand this framework. But basically it goes from the dark heart, which is where we're not, heart and brain aren't speaking, all the way up to the clear heart, which is where we're in that tapped in sense of flow and harmony. So would have been about 9 years ago now, 9 years ago. I think in terms of my books, I was living in New York City. And I didn't have this framework, but I was what I would call a clear heart moment when I wasn't thinking, right? And this is achievable for all of us. But what we want to do with the tools and teachings in the book is train ourselves to be in more of these states. But we can feel that clear heart moment when we're doing the dishes and we're sort of not thinking, we're just really present. Or when you're on a walk and you're looking up at the sunshine, or you're looking into your puppy's eyes, or whatever it is, right? It's stepping into this beyond thinking, which I'd always heard Eckhart Tolle talk about, but I never knew how to actually do it. Now it turns out you do it through your heart's power. So I was in a clear heart moment. I stepped out of my apartment, and I remember, which is in the West Village, and there was sunlight on my shoulders. And I remember I was just bouncing up to Union Square, which is a park on 14th Street, not really thinking, just feeling really alive and just really grounded in my body. Now I got to the edge of the park, and I usually would cut diagonally across. I was working with an agency that was in the East, so it made sense to always go that way. The precursor to this story is that several months before, I had sent my third book, which is called The Beauty Detox Power, to Deepak Chopra. Mm-hmm. And this book was my departure from more physical wellness. I'd been writing, primarily just about food and nutrition and, yoga asanas, into this more holistic, energetic, spiritual dimension, shall we say. I thought, what an amazing person to review my work. So I sent the book to Deepak. And after many, many follow-ups, getting through his team, he gave me an amazing endorsement. But I felt, when you feel, Lindsay, there's something that's meant here, there's something more. Mm-hmm. So I felt that I was meant to do something more with Deepak. And from the clear heart perspective, we don't have to push. We don't have to force. We just feel it. Like, we start to embody it. We just feel it through our cells. We just know it. So I knew it. And I was just sort of living with that knowing, but not pushing. Now, fast forward to that day in the park. And I didn't walk east. I said something in my gut, heart, brain. Now, I would say there's a practice in the book for aligning your heart with your gut. And it said, walk west. So I walk west, and a block walking west, who did I run into on the street?
Deepak. I loved this story in the book.
Deepak Chopra. True story.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Because I was in the clear heart, beyond thinking, the way in which I approached him, right? I said, very simple, right? Being from the heart is simple and clear. Deepak, it's me, Kimberly. You just reviewed my book. Just like that. And without the self-doubt of like, who am I to go up to him? Maybe I'm bothering him, or like meekness, or sort of that lower energy of the propelled heart, dark heart. I just said, Deepak, it's me. Just so much clarity. And he said, oh, great, Kimberly. He gave me his cell phone number. And 2 weeks later, we met at a coffee shop. In 2 hours, on the napkin, which I still have somewhere, we decided to write a book together called Radical Beauty. Mm-hmm. We wrote the book. We had laid out the pillars that day. It went on to become a New York Times bestseller. This is the power that we can all tap into of not being mind-led, right, but heart-led, right? If I said to myself, Lindsay, I really want to make this happen. Let's go through agents. Let me try to push. Let me write more emails. Like, it might have really turned him off if I hadn't been in this embodiment of clear heart energy, because we need to embody it, not just say it. Remember the heart field? How many people come up to Deepak? He doesn't give his number to everyone, right? We need to be in this. But the great news is that, number one, all hearts are equal, as Paramahansa Yogananda says, who brought yoga to the West. So our hearts all have this potential. Number two, it's pretty simple. But number three, we can train ourselves to increase what's called our coherence capacity. The tools are simple, they're accessible, but you want to do them regularly. Mm-hmm. In the Hidden Power of the Five Hearts, there's the 8-minute heart aligned meditation, which we did a research study on, which increased coherence 29% in 4 weeks. It's only 8 minutes. But many of the practices, Lindsay, are ones you integrate into your life in 3 to 10 seconds, under a minute, while you're on the Zoom, right now while we're talking, in a moment where you start to feel a stress response coming in while you're driving your car. So it's not, let me just set aside this separate time to work on my heart. It's really living the heart teachings.
Which is where the biggest opportunities are. It's in those day-to-day moments where we catch ourselves overthinking, or we catch ourselves kind of out of our body and not in our heart space, or that's my experience of it. So that's why I loved how practical the meditations are in the book.
Yes, and many,
So
there's the meditation
easy.
and then there's the practices, which aren't
Exactly.
meditations.
Right.
To your point, the heart align, harmonize in life. When you're flowing through, you want to just keep going and avoiding the stress response. So much research woven into these practices, but also, again, these ancient teachings. So one of the images I love is this, this ancient, we can feel how our ancestors used to sit around fires in circles, right?
Yeah.
There's like that. You can think of the beating drum. You can think about the tending of the fire. So there's this section in the Devoted Heart, which is the 4th heart stage, where I talk about how you really live a heart-led life is you keep the fire activated in your heart. It's like you're tending the fire. How do you keep it activated? You keep turning to the heart's power.
Yeah.
So for example, just while you and me are talking, while anyone is watching this or listening to this, place some of your attention on your heart. This is the first step in the practices. You can touch your heart, like I teach my children, or you can just place your attention. This alone, Lindsay, starts to rewire your nervous system. This is how powerful we are. This is how powerful our hearts are. Just by placing attention, it starts to rewire these neural connections. It starts to bring in a different input signal to the brain and the amygdala. Instead of being so reactive, this happens, I go straight to this, or starting to feel that hardening, that more masculine approach in our business. Like, I got to power through. A coldness starts to come in. We're like, this isn't who I am. We start to feel drained of our creativity and our sensuality and our dynamicism. When we stay in our hearts, we can be so productive, so efficient, and so amazingly, heart-led with that nurturing, that compassion, the care that will turn our businesses on fire.
And ultimately, I think that's what we all, I would say someone who's listening to this podcast is heart-led by their nature. All humans probably are. That's our default nature. But the women, especially who are in this community, are building businesses from a place of really wanting to contribute. And I think I hear so often this contrast to the way we think we see other people achieving success. And there's a disconnect, because we know inherently that's actually not the way that we're meant to operate. And this question will come up a lot about just understanding, okay, is it this mentality of pushing and hustling, or is that the only way to success? Is there a way? The other way that I think I've seen it is it almost comes across as it's just, you just trust and believe the universe has you. It's actually not an active. I think what we're searching for is like, what's the practice that'll bring me back into my power, which is what you're offering.
Yes. So I think to answer your question, Lindsay, it's very important to go through the heart stages.
Yeah, let's do that.
Because the definition of success also shifts.
Yes.
As we deepen into our heart. So there's 5 stages for awakening into your heart's power. And these are not stages that I created myself. The title of the book is The Hidden Power of the 5 Hearts. These 5 heart stages are actually ancient. They were written about in the Vedic teachings, and they were brought forward by Swami Sri Yukteswar specifically, who was the guru to Yogananda. He was a Vedic mystic, incredibly wise yogi who wrote this book that included about the 5 heart stages in sutra style. So there would be, Sanskrit, the teaching, and a little bit of commentary. And so when I was called to the heart, which was a few years ago, I sat reading this book over and over again in our farm in Hawaii. I remember just really trying to deeply understand what he was talking about in these heart stages, which he said were universal. So we all go through these stages. And then when I got into the science and I did the research study with Heart Math on the heart aligned meditation, I realized that the science of heart coherence actually corresponds to these 5 heart stages written out in the Vedas. So there was this incredible intersection. Now, before we go into the stages, I'll say that it's natural for us to flow in and out. So we could have different experiences in a day, even in an hour, right? So, but what happens is we tend to be in one heart stage primarily in a period. And we could also be in different stages in different parts of our lives. We could be one way in our personal lives, one way in our work life. But what's really incredible about the research in these teachings is that it shows that as we continue, remember the heart aligned meditation raised coherence 29%, you will start to spend more time in the higher stages. So the first stage, you ready? The dark heart. So dark sounds sinister.
Right.
But I don't mean evil.
No.
I mean dark like you do not see.
Yeah.
So imagine we shut all the windows in here and we were trying to walk across from point A to point B. We might fall, might hurt ourselves, we might hurt someone else. You're not trying to, but you cannot see. Lack of awareness, living out the same patterns, lots of fear, overwhelm, overthinking, feeling like you're just running into a wall, hitting limits in your business, not being able to, find the right relationships or deepen into relationships. Scientifically, what this looks like is incoherence. So the heart and the brain aren't really communicating properly. You would see this on HRV pattern graphs. Stage 2, let's say you start to make a lifestyle change for whatever reason. There's a bit more energy comes in, there's more coherence. Now you're propelled into the next heart stage, known as the propelled heart. So definitely more energy, more motivation. But still, Lindsay, this is where most of society lives. This is where always on, got to make it happen. Stress, overwhelm, burnout, anxiety, chronic inflammation, gut health issues, rigid plans, trying to control life. This is supposed to work out. I have an expectation. I'm supposed to be at this place in my business, have, make this much money, have this job promotion, have this many followers, whatever it is. I'm supposed to be married and have 2 kids by the time I'm 30. Like all these plans, and very from the mind, very externally oriented. How do I look like? What do people think of me? What is their opinion of me? So our definition of success is, do I look successful to other people? What do I have to show, right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with having achievements and having Chanel purses and all these things. But if our worth is completely tied up in this external orientation, we have restlessness and a lack of peace.
Yeah.
So big jump to stage 3, known as the steady heart, where suddenly we just start to feel so much more security and safety from inside, validation from the inside. So what this means is we become far more resilient to going into a stress response. We start to harmonize, we flow with life, we become more free of attachments, things having to be a certain way. Oh, that person didn't want to ask me out on a second date. No worry, I'll go this way. This person decided to leave my company. It wasn't meant to be. I'll find the next best candidate or whatever it is, right? We're flowing. Stage 4, the devoted heart. Now we're not just steady inside, but we're devoted. This is a different definition of success. What matters more, Lindsay, is love, care, compassion, connection, right? Peace. So it's moment to moment. We're not rushing through. Moment to moment, I'm really interacting, looking into the eyes of this person, checking me out at Starbucks or Target. I let this person into the intersection because I'm not just hurrying to my next meeting. The heart comes alive. But because we're in such a high level of coherence, remember the heart field? The ironic thing is things tend to work out far more easily in our businesses, in the material world, but from this different place. From the heart, we're not pushing. We're not constantly in a stress response. We're not grinding ourselves. We're not wearing down our bodies all day and all night. We're actually enjoying our lives. We're feeling fulfillment, a deepening in our relationships, high emotional intelligence, high intuition. And then the 5th heart stage is the clear heart, as I mentioned, where this is where we are not just one with this heart, but the universal heart, oneness. What yoga would call samadhi, right? It's such deep connection with all our brothers and sisters. We transcend the egoic me, or me versus you, or this group versus that, or separation, or trying to compete versus we're all in this, the unity, the win-win, the incredible ways in which we can communicate and live. This is the field of miracles. This is the field of incredible synchronicities as I mentioned with my story with Deepak, which I mentioned because it's possible for everyone.
Yeah.
And also I want to say, Lindsay, because the story sounds like this, I have a lot of dark heart moments myself. I'm human, right? I'm in and out of the heart stages just like everyone else, but I'm not in as often. Mm-hmm. And when I'm in, because of these tools, I'm able to get out faster. So the more of our lives we trend up and we spend more time in steady, devoted, and clear, we start to have more vitality, more success inwardly, and yes, in material abundance and success, more fulfillment and deeper relationships.
It's beautiful how clear all of that is. And I've never, until your book, had never thought about it from that way, but I've experienced it.
Yes.
I've experienced
Reflect
the
back
shift
on your life.
When you were talking about in the propelled heart, the word that jumped off the page for me was restlessness.
Yeah.
And for me, and maybe some of you listening, that was a lot of what propelled me into business, or so I thought, because there was deeper underneath just this knowing that I'm here on this planet to make an impact and to make a difference. And my transition from operating from that place into, I would say, more of the upper 3 stages of the heart now took a tremendous amount of trust. I think that transition has been the hardest for me, coming from the propelled heart, because it's such a different way of operating.
And it's also societal, right?
Yes.
When you see everyone hustling in the same way and comparing numbers on TikTok and Instagram,
so much trust,
business numbers. It's trust, but I will say it's also experiential.
Say more about that.
So when we're doing this heart work, and we can do a mini practice in a little while, you feel, and I'm getting goosebumps, you feel different right away. Right? For some people, it's like, I don't connect so much, but you can feel a little fire and it starts getting stronger and stronger. Sometimes you do certain things, right? Like we have a digestion line with Saluna, the digestive enzymes, which are really powerful over time to help increase your vitality. But right away, you may be like, I don't really feel something, but there's this, trust, keep taking them and it really will help you long-term. When I'm talking about with the heart work, this is different than heady practices of like trying to make my will stronger. You're actually having a different experience in the moment. I'll also tell you something. There were 30 people in our study that we did with Heart Math. We brought them in. We measured their HRV patterns in the lab. We said, do this practice for 8 minutes, 4 to 5 times a week. That's it. We came back, measured them again. On average, there was a 29% increase in this coherence. So they're experiencing, remember, Lindsay, this isn't just like a number.
Right.
You're experiencing more clarity. You're experiencing a different reality where life looks different and people are perceiving you differently. Now, what's interesting about this study is that we had all different types of people. We had someone from the ex-military. We had busy moms. 2 of the people in the study I would call powerhouse women. One was a doctor, one was a high-level producer here in Hollywood. Now, both of these women are in their late 30s. They both want to get married, have kids. They've been on Raya, which is a dating app
I've heard of. Yeah, I guess.
Bumble, like all these different ones without any success.
Okay.
One within 3 weeks of the study, true story, and one within 5 weeks of the study, both found their life partners.
Wow.
One is already engaged. One just went to Italy with her partner and she's about to be engaged. Is this not amazing? The experiential. They were coming into their hearts and they were changing. This isn't like woo-woo, like trying to manifest from this, but actual science. They're changing the electromagnetic field. They're also changing through neuroplasticity, their heart-brain connection, so that their perceptions are different. When we perceive differently, we show up differently. We speak differently. We're a different person in that boardroom meeting. We're a different person who's communicating to our team. We're so connected. We can connect more to others. Emotional intelligence is so high, right? And this has been studied in different organizations. Heart Math, who I did the research study with, who's not just a research company, by the way. They have all sorts of offerings around love and heart-based living. And their founder, Doc Childre, is very spiritually attuned. They've done studies, though, on how much more productive BMW and the IRS, the military is using this research, So it works in businesses, but it also is so experiential. So I'm not asking you to trust Lindsay or anyone to trust. I'm saying, try these tools and practices and feel, whoa, now your heart is turning on. So instead of being in that, ego mind, the wild horse, all the thoughts, the circular patterns, the fear, which is where we make bad decisions coming up. And, you said you reflected when you were in different stages. I can look back and say, oh, when I was in the Propelled, I wanted to make it happen. And I tell this story in the book. I let this person into my business who, I felt like, oh, I need this new tech person. I don't really understand tech. It just didn't feel exactly right, but I wanted to rush forward. And this person ended up, being a really bad fit, ended up stealing money from the company. But the heart is also out of space and time. So I also tell the story how when I met my husband, it was such a strong heart connection, even though everything externally seemed so different, that, we just connected and we were engaged within 6 weeks.
Yeah.
This is, going on 6 years ago. Continue to work on a relationship, but more deeply and happily married than ever.
And I love that reminder, right? It's like that it is outside of time and space. So should we take everyone into the heart? I would love if we would do a little.
Let's do it. We've been talking a lot. This is about experiencing.
Good.
So you ready?
Yeah, I'm so ready.
Let's get nice and comfy, love. And I say that because it's nice to lift the spine to get comfortable, but if it's possible, it's better not to slouch a little bit so we can really let the energy lines move. So we're going to get nice and comfy and we're going to close our eyes. And of course, if you're driving, don't close your eyes. You can come back to this if you're listening or if you're watching. Please do this with us. And straight away, we're going to place our attention on our hearts. So it can help to place your hand on your heart. It's not necessary, but for some, it comes quite naturally. And again, research published in the American Journal of Cardiology shows that this alone starts to rewire your nervous system. Now we're going to keep focusing on our heart while we take some deep breaths, imagining that we're breathing in and out of our hearts. So we're going to do a 5 in, 5 out breath pattern. Coherence breathing. I'll do the counts. We'll breathe in for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhaling out of your heart for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And once again, breathing into your heart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And exhaling for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now just continue to breathe in and out of your heart. No more counting. Full focus on your heart. Leave everything behind just for a few moments. And now while you continue to focus on your heart, I'd like you to recall someone or something that makes you feel appreciation. So appreciation is a mix of gratitude and thankfulness and awe and approval. And it has been shown to help increase coherence. It's a very nourishing heart emotion. It could feel expansive. To me, it feels a little tingly. So it could be a loved one, like I said. It could be a pet. It could be a sunset you saw or a beautiful part of the ocean you love to go to. Whatever it is that helps you self-generate this feeling of appreciation. Focus on your heart. Feel this energy in your heart. And we're going to sustain this together for just a few moments. If a thought came in, you got distracted, come right back into your heart. Really go there into this feeling of appreciation. And now we'll breathe appreciation into our hearts. And we'll exhale appreciation out. And then we'll breathe in appreciation, as well as these other heart-based emotions, peace and love. And we'll exhale out appreciation, peace, and love to each other, to the communities around you, to your loved ones. One of the things the science shows is that our hearts are also broadcast stations, and that ultimately all heart fields intersect. So not only can we increase our own coherence, but we can intentionally send energies through our heart field. So once again, we'll breathe in appreciation, love, peace, and we'll send appreciation, love, peace out into the community around us, our loved ones, into our businesses, into the larger world community, and especially to places in the world that could use more peace and love and unity right now. And then we'll take one more deep breath in and out of our hearts. And then just take a moment to thank your heart for its amazing wisdom. And for anything else that arises spontaneously that you want to give thanks for. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes.
That was so beautiful.
Do you feel the shift?
I feel the shift in not just this between the energy here, it's like feeling it extend so far beyond even just the two of us sitting here right now.
I'm getting goosebumps. Can I see the book, Lindsay? I want
Yeah.
to show you something here. What's amazing, when we did this study, we stayed in that appreciation state for 2 minutes. You can see the graph here. This is where the psychological becomes the physiological. This is what our pattern looks like when we're in anger.
Wow.
It's disordered and it's chaotic. And from this place, we do not operate our businesses well. We do not connect in our relationships. We create separation. We really burden our own health. When we're in appreciation, see these smooth sine waves? The heart is the main biological oscillator in the body. It sets the rhythms. So all systems start to become more efficient, from your hormones to your gut, to your thoughts, your perceptions. This is the science that shows what we really know intuitively. I also want to show this, Lindsay. See this little graph? In this study, people are asked to recall anger and recall care. So remember when that person said this to me, like actually being angry, but recalling it.
Yes.
In both cases, IgA spiked, the good stress, bad stress theory. But then the people that recalled anger in the study, their IgA, which is a secretory antibody that is a measure of immunity,
right?
Was lowered for 6 hours. Just recalling anger for 5 minutes. Now, when we recalled care, like remember when my mother took care of me, or took care of my sick dog, it was elevated. So I like the science to back up, like for the discerning mind to realize that this is very much grounded and measurable. But there's so much that can't be measured. Like in that meditation, when you feel that connection, the heart field, I was feeling your energy. I felt your energy as soon as you walked out and I saw you near the car.
Yeah.
And I just want to acknowledge your big heart, Lindsay, just so authentically, really you, really of the heart, wanting to help, just very coherent. And so when we started talking about how differently our lives can be with the heart, how differently our businesses can run, they're not in opposition.
Yeah.
When we bring in these heart qualities, we become so connected that we are connected to different solutions, to forging whole new creative ways of looking at projects in our business, communicating with our team members on such a different level. I mean, I can't tell you how much this has changed my business, Soluna. My relationship with my husband has probably improved 90% because there was so much love, but the day-to-day friction running the household, you left your socks on the ground again. Like
when I read that part, I was like, oh my, that was always a big point of contention, but it's so true, just how bringing ourselves back into the heart changes.
We waste so much energy, right? When we're in the mind trying to prove. When you start to feel, I'll give you an example. I was on our porch. We got to our farm in Hawaii, and I like things as minimal as possible. I don't like stuff. I don't like clutter. My husband's the opposite. He loves stuff. He loves biohacking. He loves shopping. So we get there, and there's these huge boxes. Imagine it's a long trip with the kids who sit on me on the plane ride. So we get there and we get to the house. Saw the boxes. Trigger. I said something sharp. Ooh, more stuff. And then it meets his reactivity. I'm allowed to get what I want, right? Yeah. So it could have been without this heart work, sort of like little jabs, friction, like for hours and hours. In that moment, got to the porch first. I just turned and I did the heart align, harmonize, and life practice, which is in the Propelled Heart chapter. 3 to 10 seconds. I'm telling you, Lindsay, I got back in. And then I turned to him and I said, I'm sorry, I know that sounded sharp, but I would really love if you would put away the boxes after you unpack your stuff. Right? It's clear. And you know what? Usually he would unpack and just leave a mess. He actually unpacked and right then took the boxes out. So this heart work is not about, I'm always just nice all the time. People trample on me. I have to be a pushover, right? Because a lot of times society thinks the heart is sentimental, romanticized.
Such a powerful
irrational.
Distinction. Yes.
The clear, coherent heart expresses needs, puts up healthy boundaries. It's the straightest point to getting your needs met without the backstory, without the narratives of the mind, without bringing all this murky messiness into our businesses, into our conversations. It's just clear.
Yeah.
And so it's so effective.
And kind.
And of the heart. We don't have to harden. We don't have to put up the shell. We don't have to go the propelled heart way, which is rushing through, getting cold, turning off the heart's power. Instead, we can really stay really heart-led and lead our businesses, lead our lives from this place, which is so much more fulfilling and peaceful and effective.
Effective being the key component there. So you were sharing earlier how learning what you learned in the research behind this book has completely changed how you're running your company, Soluna. And I would love to hear about that because it sounds like things are shifting in beautiful ways. How has this research impacted the way that you run your company right now?
So my company has always been this natural unfolding, I would say, of my journey.
Yeah.
It started with a free blog when I got back from backpacking. Three years I was on the road, mostly in Africa and Asia. And I came back and I started this blog, which was a mix of travel and just my wellness philosophy. And then my first 2 books, the book deal started coming. They were more nutrition focused. And then it started expanding into gut health and body care. And then I came out with my SBO probiotics and my line, and then started to become more spiritual, right? And then I started to bring in meditation and our 4 cornerstones of Saluna, which are food, body, emotional well-being, and spiritual growth. But then it was like, what ties it all together? And sometimes I'm talking about this part or this part. And now it's so clear to me, Lindsay, what the core of my business, the core of my Feel Good podcast is heart-led living and wellness. So it filters through all the cornerstones. Heart-led eating is intuitively eating, not being led by numbers, by this way of deeply self-caring and recipes that actually have ingredients that nourish your heart, gut, and brain. The heart-led way we approach our body care, heart-led emotional regulation through these practices, and also this idea of spiritual growth through the heart, which is inclusive. Again, it's through all the spiritual traditions. I've always talked about the gateway of the heart. So it's this through line. And it's changed my own podcast conversations. It's changing the way, for instance, our Glowing Greens powder, which is this incredible formula of 7 key plants. The star ingredient, Lindsay, is amalaki, which is the most rejuvenative plant. It's considered the most rejuvenative plant in all of the thousands of herbs in Ayurveda. And guess what it nourishes?
The heart.
Heart, gut, brain. So when you have this powder every day, which is enhancing your vitality, everything, it's also nourishing the 3 brains. So it's a different framework for the way I design products, the way I formulate, the way I speak. It's just come through everything. This book has changed me, Lindsay. My other books were more, guiding through what I had already been living, what I was sharing. This book, in the process of writing it, has awakened my heart even more. It's changed everything. And I really want everyone to have access to these tools. I really am so passionate about this hidden power because it's right here.
Yeah. And it's accessible. I love how you started off by saying all hearts are the same, reminding us that at our core, that really is the thing that unifies us. It's the thing that connects us. It's the thing that is going to connect us with our customers, those of us who have businesses. So
there's a section in the Devoted Heart about the practicality of the heart in commerce, in businesses.
Okay, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes.
It's so relatable.
So think about in any relationship, what if you were trying to, let's say a relationship with a friend, what if you were trying to push them, force them into something? They may give in, or guilt them into something. They may do what you want them to do, but it's not really sustainable. It's not natural. Think about what you would do for love, for the real connection. You would change your whole schedule if you needed to help a friend out, go to the hospital, drive them to the airport, whatever was needed, right? When we approach business from this linear, colder way that marketing and communication can be, which is, look at what I have, like, here's sales, you need this, you have all these problems. People may come in, you may get that sale, but it's a lot more effort over the long term. It's like a much heavier lift versus the natural magnetism. Remember the heart field? When you bring this natural connection and you just love your customers and you genuinely want to support them, that's an energy that's infused throughout the business that will be felt, that will attract customers in. There's a genuine connection. You have a real brand where people come back to time and time again.
It's actually what defines the Powerhouse Women community. And I never had the right words to back it up. And we have a big live event. So we have the podcast, we do events, retreats. And the event, I've always said, it's actually something that's hard to put on a sales page. It's a feeling. You feel it while you're there. And it's one of the reasons why when people attend, then they come back the next year and they bring 5 friends because they want them to experience it. So
it's an
experience. It's grown organically, but how to teach other people how to tap into that for their business until having your book as a tool. It was a little bit hard. It was a difficult concept for me to put into words because it just felt like I was doing it and I couldn't explain what I was doing other than you actually just put the words to it. As you were saying that, it was reflected back that that's what I've been struggling to describe the success of this business versus other things that I was building more from the propelled heart, more from that place of
the mind,
really trying to do it right, trying to figure out, why isn't this fitting? Why does it feel like I'm forcing this? Yeah.
And you know what would be amazing down the road, Lindsay, for the community is I'm creating a heart-led living coaching program where people can get certified, even if they don't want to teach other people, but to deepen into their own heart work, because each of these aspects is going to be broken out into far more detail in the modules. How we really practice heart-led self-care, heart-led eating, heart-led nourishment, heart-led relationships. I just taught a 4-week heart reset program for people that pre-ordered the book. There were thousands of people in this course. The change I saw in some of these people in 4 weeks, the stories. One person was saying how instead of giving a wedding speech, he did a heart aligned meditation. There's all this drama in his family, like the aunts were going to walk out. All these things were happening. And he used the heart coherence practices to bring the wedding together.
Wow.
I just had a busy mom saying how linear she was in the way she was getting her son ready for school. She was feeling so cold and disconnected from her 6-year-old, and how this just brought a whole new relationship, and people talking about their businesses being transformed. So thank you for bringing this conversation in, and also for being so naturally heart-led yourself as a perfect, embodiment of this. And I think the word perfect can be charged. What I mean is authentic.
Yeah.
Because perfect is, we're all perfect in our own way, spiritual way, like we're all here, we're alive. But in our culture, perfect gets a very different definition.
Yeah.
The truth is that we're human, right? So the heart journey is also, there's this natural fluctuation. Sometimes we can feel like we're getting really steady, but we'll see something on the news or something happens in our business and we have a dark heart moment. We might feel a lot of fear, or maybe, we react in a way that we wouldn't really want to do again. But you know what? The heart is infinitely compassionate. We have to be compassionate with ourselves. So it says, oh, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm, stepping up here from this experience. It's such an important part, Lindsay, I'll say, of this heart journey is true self-compassion. Because when we are able to be compassionate, we're able to see more. Sometimes it hurts so much we don't want to be seen as a person that got linear, more masculine or harder. But when the heart awakens, so the yogis say the third eye awakens so we can see. So we can start to see more of the patterns. We realize it's okay. I made a mistake, or maybe I was doing this for a while and now I'm going to shift. Now I see a different way, the heart-led way.
I just want everyone to let that sink in, how differently it would feel to approach your business, your relationships, your life in this way. I think this is one of the most important books that people can read. I really mean that. And just getting to hear more of your heart behind it has been such a gift today. So I want to leave people with, of course, where they can find out more about you, about Soluna, because now we can, maybe you'll have to come back. We'll do a part 2 about right, the nutrition side of it, because it's all of it. But if we start with the heart, we're going to be led in the right direction. And I think as we embark on a new year and we start to set businesses for our goals, start here and let that guide you, because I bet the way that you set goals, I bet the way that you approach your business this year is going to just shift entirely.
I would encourage everyone, Lindsay, thank you so much for really learning about this work, because it can, and I don't use this term lightly, it can create quantum leaps in your goals, in your business. In the example of the women who were in our study who had been looking for relationships for over a decade. And suddenly found themselves in their long-term partnerships. My own experience of meeting my husband and getting married within 2 months, which feels fast in linear time. But when we're in the heart frequency, which is dynamic, we are out of that linear. It's going to take this long, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes there's pauses where it feels like, And then sometimes there's these quantum leaps.
Yeah.
So I really, instead of just pushing ahead in the same old way to get results, really come in, learn about the heart stages, try the heart aligned meditation. Also on our website, mysoluna.com, SOLLUNA.com, there are free tracks of this heart aligned meditation paired with coherence building music. So that you can do the tracks. You can, again, it's under 8 minutes. You can learn more about the work, about the offerings, about the future heart set, the 4-week heart reset programs, which I will lead,
Beautiful.
and the amazing coaching program that we're working on right now.
This is going to be huge. And the book again is called The Hidden Power of the 5 Hearts. You can get it anywhere that books are sold. And I love to end every conversation with an opportunity really for us all. I think it is an opportunity to come back into the heart, but it's a moment of self-reflection and acknowledgement for something big or small that you want to acknowledge yourself for. It's a reminder for all of us to pause and acknowledge ourselves throughout the day. We just call it a powerhouse moment. It could be anything big or small, but the first thing that comes to your heart, I usually say your mind, but now I'm going to say the first thing that comes to your heart.
Beautiful.
When I ask, what's a recent powerhouse moment that you want to celebrate with us right now?
So I get goosebumps. It came to me immediately. One of the things that's been building, and I really want to acknowledge how much more peace I feel in my life day to day. I'm a recovering perfectionist, Lindsay. It's always been about achievements. Weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. I was the president of my high school class. It was like never ending. None of that makes us feel peaceful.
Yeah.
But just being in my heart and day to day, just feeling truly so much more light and peaceful is priceless. And I would love for everyone to experience more of this as well.
So beautiful. This has just been really heart-filling, no pun intended. So thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Lindsay, for having me and for your big heart.